Hello and welcome to this video. Today we're finally going to unbox another Elves box by Sophie and Toffee. Now, they did take some time off because of a personal tragedy, so it is no wonder that, of course, boxes didn't arrive, so that was announced though, and it's totally fine. But yeah, let's actually have a look into the new Elves box, and this one is the March one, and the theme is Miniature Serious Greenhouse. For this one I actually didn't see any previews or anything at all, and this booklet is quite lovely. Of course we have their social media information on the back and this lovely design in front. And it looks like we get some sort of clay. I wonder if it's polymer or air dry clay in green. We get some miniature flowers, and these look exactly like maybe even HO scale train miniature layout flowers that you can buy. I actually have a lot of these floating around for my train project. And then we get some pink wire. I guess you can like hang something with this or like make plants out of it. And we get these plant pots. Looks like we get 3 varieties, a like more round one, a more like cone shaped one, and one with like flowers on it. And the top with holes for airflow and like letting out the excess resin. And then it looks like we get like a grid thing that the flowers can like float on top of, like weave into and all that. And we get some mica powder in black, copper, pink and white. And these are the larger tubs. I like these a bit more than the ones in the baggies, because the baggies when you open them with gloves can be kind of messy. But I think it's essentially the same pigment. And then of course we get some resin. Actually we get 2 types. We get odorless LED UV resin and a 2-part crystal resin. And the other mold, it looks like we get some wood parts. It looked like a stand for like maybe the grid thing, ranking grid, and yeah, I don't know what the other stuff is supposed to be, but it almost looks like maybe a fence or something. So let's have a look in the booklet and actually see what this is supposed to be. And it looks like it's supposed to be a crate in the garden stand, at least it says in the title. And here we can see all of the stuff we actually should have gotten, and it says that the green clay is actually air dry, which actually is a bit more I guess logical than any kind of oven bake, since there was no instructions for oven temperatures, although they could have probably put it in the instructions. So feel free to actually stop if you didn't get the instructions, but yeah, you can see all of the steps, and it looks like they put like the molds together in a different way than they originally planned, so I will have to use this guide to like see which parts of the mold actually belong to the crate and which belong to this like stand thing. But overall the instructions are again very nice and clearly written and all that. And it looks like you can either use wire to hang the pot or actually also use the thread to make like macrame style pot holder. And of course on the last page we have some beautiful creations from other people again. So this one I think is a really cool idea to like use the flat dragging egg mold to make like a, I guess, vest style decoration. And then we have all of these shakers and shaker molds. I always love to see all these creations, I think they're very inspiring. But let's actually get into creating. I decided I wanted to make this crate not out of resin but out of clay, because that means I can texture both sides equally and actually like paint it the right color and all that without having to worry about one smooth side like you would get from casting. So I'm actually using my flat blade here to trim up the clay and make it like fit, and I already rolled it out flat, so I just have to press it a little bit into the mold to pick up the texture. And I'm actually gonna, as I said, texture both sides, so I'm going in with my stylus to just add the remaining texture on the other side. and that is going to like help give the illusion like these are actual board made crate kind of planks things. And I'm going to apply the same technique for all of the parts. I did need to look into the booklet very thoroughly to see which part belongs where, but in the end, after I figured that out, it was basically just a case of mix and match all the parts together. Just completely like texturing them from both sides and then putting the crate together. Now to actually make the clay stick without having to like glue it or anything, and to be like sure that it holds and not destroy the texture, I'm going to use some bacon bond. This stuff is a bit sticky, so it should hold it together pretty well before baking. I could have supported it with something in the middle just to refine the shape, but I thought the slight wonk would like look like it's the wood that's actually a bit wonky. And you can of course blend these, but since this is meant to be like planks, I thought they wouldn't actually be blended together normally either way. So instead I'm like putting in like tiny nail holes just with my tool, basically to mimic it being like made together either with nails or like screws or something. And I think this is gonna look a bit more realistic. While it bakes, I'm actually going to mix up some resins, and I'm going to use some Marandi pigments in like this darker chocolate brown and this like yellowish tone, and I'm trying to make like a kind of pot base color in this, and this is going to be all 3 pots that I'm going to make it. I'm going to paint them a bit more realistic anyways, so I'm not too worried about like getting the color perfectly, but I just want a nice base color. So I make sure to not overfill them since they are gonna be misplaced, and I'm using a little like tray to catch the excess resin. And I make sure to like wait, shake it and get the air bubbles out beforehand, because anything that is trapped will inadvertently appear on the sides. And then I carefully poke open the holes that I made, because in my cast they weren't fully opened, but a skewer actually helped me open them up. And then it's just a matter of like pushing on the lid, and it actually seemed to have worked really well. In the meantime, my other piece finished baking, so it's time to paint it. And since I'm going with a darker wood color, I'm actually using a black just to give it like the base color that I want to like make the brown pop. And next up I'm going to use a brown dry brush, and this is going to help like keep the recesses in this black color, just to like help keep it having this look of a little bit of depth, and it's gonna bring out all of the engraved details. So just this one is gonna cover this entire box, and I'm going in with another layer of like the same brown just after to like brighten up a little bit. But this time I'm going a bit more subtle dry brushing and that is basically it for this box paint-wise. The only thing to do now is add this last wash, and this is just going to flow into the recesses and just water down acrylic just to like make sure the grooves are completely like filled and actually defined. And there I have the box finished, and I have to say, with the like grain inside and outside, it definitely looks a bit more natural like wood. Now it is of course a little bit more shiny, but it definitely works out pretty well in that regard. And then it's time to unmold the plant pots. Now, I waited a little bit, but it's still soft, like I always like to do with this kind of resin, just so I can actually trim up the plant pots. Excess just with scissors, else I would have had to use a knife to cut it off, and I think like scissors are a bit more easy and actually give a cleaner cut. So usually I let my resin mostly harden and then go over it. Now, since I said I want to paint them, I need a surface to paint them on, and the easiest I always find is to use matte nail polish coat. This is just a clear matte, very cheap nail polish, and it's going to adhere to the resin pretty well, and it's going to dry with like a little bit of matte texture, which will help me apply all the rest of the colors. Of course, it's a bit more difficult to apply around the flowers and all that for this plant pot, so I'm just taking some time for that, but in the end it worked out really well. And like with the crate, I'm doing multiple layers, so I'm starting out with the sandy tone, and I'm using some brushes that are a bit softer to like give it more of a dry brush effect, because I still want a little bit of the base color to shine through. This is not supposed to like fully cover it, which is exactly why I mixed up the base color as I did. So this sandy color is giving the base, and then I'm mixing up this like grayish sandy color for the pot with the flowers, because this will be the only one that has a different color than the others. And for this one I actually want to bring out the flower details a bit. Now for the others I'm mixing the same sandy color with a tiny bit more red to like tone it a bit and give it more of that porcelain, like terracotta-esque look. This looks pretty intense right now, but once I'm going over it with the layers of like white and a bit more sand color, it's going to tone down and like blend it in a little bit more, and that's going to end up with like a nice terracotta look that looks like a little bit like the variation that terracotta has in real life, like with the like tonal differences between the like reddish brownish tone and the white. And I think it worked out really well. I'm also applying this like slightly reddish tone to the plant pot with the flowers, and then I'm adding a very light dry brush just on top of the flowers with the blue. And this is just going to bring them out a little bit, kind of like a almost fake lace. And then it's time to actually fill them. So I'm mixing a little bit of water with some glue and some paint into some sand. This is actually animal sand for like hamsters and stuff. It works out really well in like absorbing it, and it takes on the colors really nicely, and this makes a like mixture that you can spread on and use. Now if you use it on like larger surfaces it might crack, but for like filling in these kind of plant pots it's pretty much ideal. And then I decided, instead of like sculpting flowers and all that, to use fake flowers that I had from like previous Sophie and Toffee boxes. I just thought they would look a bit better than the ones they supplied, and like give a little bit more color, of course, since they are pre-colored. And all I'm doing, since this earth kind of mixture is pretty soft still, I'm just poking it in, and then I'm going around with some more dirt to like fill in the gaps a little bit more on this one. I want to make a variety of flowers, so for the next one I'm actually going to add a little bit of a different kind of flower that looks more like a bush, I guess. And I also am filling this plant pot a little bit more, since for this one it's gonna be a bit harder to reach the dirt in the end, so I'm just going to add the texture with my skewer later. And then I'm filling it with these trimmed up plants, and I'm adding multiple to like fill it, and I pre-poked a hole in the middle just to make sure they fit nicely, and then I'm arranging them to look like they all are like forming like one bush basically. And the last plant pot, it's getting the same treatment with some more dried flowers. And then I also decided I want to add some leaves to the first one. It looked a little bit too like empty. So I just decided to like cut up some dried actual leaves that I have, and just to like try and shape them into like the final leaves that hanging over the plant pot side. Now of course they are not green, but you know, at least they have a leaf shape and the leaf texture. These are actually rose leaves, so it has this like fine structure, and they're thin enough to like fit in there. These are actually book pressed, so they have a little bit of the like paper towel texture, but it isn't really that noticeable, and I think it actually fits pretty well on this like flower pot design. And with that, it's actually finished. I also lastly added some like of the dirt mix into the crate, just to make it look a bit more natural, like it has been like spilled from the flower pots into the crates. And with that, this project for this box is actually completely done. I'm not going to make the plant stand, since it would have taken way too much space for these plants, and I just like to place them separately anyways. But I really love how they turned out. I think the like overall look of them really looks like terracotta, and I love the details on the other plants. Now of course there are some tiny air bubbles, especially in the flower details of the rightmost pot that I painted grey with blue, but that is natural in these kinds of forms. Now I could have gone in there with a toothpick, but I think it makes it also look more realistic, kind of like it has chipped off like it does in nature. And I think the like dried up flowers make it look really, really lovely. So overall, really happy with it and the clay stuff. So what are my thoughts on this box? We got a lot of lovely pigments. We got some clay and some wire. I guess they also supplied tiny flowers, but it would have been nice to maybe get dried flowers, just size-wise also, just like I used. But I guess the tiny flowers also work out pretty much very nicely, just as like sproutlings. I just think personally for me they're a bit too small. But yeah, overall the molds are super lovely, it's super well thought out and all that. So definitely quite happy with it, and definitely one of the better boxes that we got recently. I'm absolutely in love actually with the plant pot stuff. It is pretty much like reusable the entire time, and you don't have to only make plant pots with it. Although the rounded one definitely would work for that, but I think you can also decorate them differently. But they're so like versatile, and as they showed, you can completely like hang it up and put it wherever you want, use it as decoration. Just very nice. But let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts of this box were, and did you actually like it? Would you have changed any of the items inside? And of course, I hope you have a great day. See you next time. Bye bye!